I can see people on the screen over here. I don't know how it looks from your end, but you look great from here. And Eric, I'll catch you. I have an envelope for you, but I'll just, drop it off.
Oh my goodness, I'm coming right there.
You can't get your arm through the screen.
Eli,
So-
thank you.
Okay, so thank you for all attending. I know we're going to have a couple of guests today. We're going to hear about our wonderful campus. And I'll call the meeting to order. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have a quorum.
Yep.
So we have some minutes. I don't know if anybody's reviewed or everybody's certainly reviewed the minutes. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions? There being none, can I hear a motion to adopt and approve the minutes?
So
Dave? Xavier?
I'll second that.
Approve the minutes?
I'll move that.
Aye. Second. Okay, all in favor? Minutes accepted. Thank you very much. As always, I welcome you all here. It isn't as beautiful a day as it was the last time we had a meeting. And hopefully by spring it'll be beautiful again, but I'm glad that we're all here. I like to see everybody in person, but different world. And we can see people virtually and it works very efficiently. And we have a short agenda and thanks for coming. President Wheeler, do you have a report for us?
I do. So good afternoon, everyone. Let me begin. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. So thank you. Let me begin by saying that I know that everyone in council receives the monthly updates. So I won't rehash some of those details, but I'll fill in some of the things that have happened since. Last weekend, our women's soccer team defeated Cortland to win the SUNY, and this Saturday they play in the first round of the NCAA women's soccer championship. They're playing Amherst at Syracuse on Saturday. University of Rochester, somewhere up there north, some school. But they are playing UMass Amherst in the first round, right? Isn't it Amherst?
Amherst College.
Amherst College. Okay. So, but it is women's soccer, correct? All right. We congratulate them. Strategic planning is in full swing. I hope that college council members have received multiple points of contact from the consultant asking you to participate in ways. And so I know some have been able to. We really appreciate your input. It's very important. Today, there was a session on the student experience. Shelley tells me there were 90 people there. I stopped in right around the lunchtime. 11 of those 90 were students. So that was good that we have some student participation. Thank you, Xavier, for promoting that. We continue to focus on culture climate on campus as one of our 3 important priorities this semester, and culture climate this semester has been by and large quite calm and quiet on campus in terms of large scale protests or activities that we experienced in the spring. I know that many campuses were looking for potential disruption before or immediately after the November elections. We didn't have such. We had a number of pre-election electoral events. We had tabling. We had get to know how to vote. A lot of experiences promoted by faculty and students. So that was great. There were post-election events. There was one on Tuesday night, I think it was Tuesday night, when it was dinner and discourse. That's part of a regular series. Honors program did something. Psychological counseling had events. So it's good to know that the campus is showing up both before and after the election. And we hope that the campus continues as people focus on the academics and the co-curricular fun activities. And we will continue to monitor. SUNY is strongly encouraging all campuses to continue to monitor for any indications of anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or other conditions that might promote hate or anything related to hate speech. So we do that. Finally, fiscal sustainability, the third of our three major priorities for this semester. Absolutely continue to monitor our financial well-being. As we reported throughout the past several meetings, SUNY has identified SUNY New Paltz as needing to reduce by $3 million its budget to have a balanced budget by 2029 or to grow revenue to cover that gap. So Michelle and her team are monitoring our process on that, our academics, our social, each one of our vice presidents has as a key focus in their areas, how they're doing that, whether that's through staffing elements, specifically through enrollment, and on the academic side and student affairs side, making sure retention is really part of what we're doing. So we continue to do that. And our goal is to reach our required balanced budget by 2029. On academic programs, one that I can report on is that the curriculum for the nursing program has been reviewed by the Faculty Senate and approved. So that was really great news. It got a favorable vote. So now it will go to the stage where we engage an external consultant to begin to look at our curriculum, and then we'll continue to move it through the processes, moving it to SUNY and to the state with the goal of having an approved nursing curriculum before the end of the year would be our ideal goal. But until then, we don't have a nursing program. We're striving for it, and we're doing the things we need to do to move us forward. And then you'll hear more about the facilities construction, but if you've walked on campus at all, been on campus at all, you can't help but to see construction in many directions. I would encourage you, if you haven't seen the new space in front of the Sojourner Truth Library, take a look. It was really opened up and they're putting the trees and the grass back. I've seen students sitting out there. There's been installation of benches facing the mountain ridge, which is really a very cool space, and students and faculty and staff, I imagine as well, are enjoying that space. So I know Scott will talk more about it, but kudos to the facilities team for all the work they're doing and the construction work that's underway. So that concludes my report for today. Happy to answer any questions or to fill in gaps that items I may not have addressed.
Any questions? I'm really disappointed there's not any controversies. And when you were saying how things have gone so smoothly, I thought that was almost an invitation to crank it up. But that's glad to hear. When there is anything to be said about New Paltz, for a long time now, it's been really positive. And it wasn't always like that. And it has to do with the institution, everybody who participates, and certainly in the leadership. And I mean, people at this table, as well as the students. And they're serious about learning. And that's what the role of the institution is to educate it. And I'm surprised there wasn't more reaction to the election, but not really, because I think people are well informed and well opinionated, and it's a learning lesson. Things don't always go the way you want. And, I'm really dated, 50 years ago when I was an anti-war protester, and then I became a Navy veteran. And so things change and evolve, and was not happy at all. But voice was heard, but it's a learning experience, and it goes along with growing up and being educated, and the push and pull of it all. And it's the way things are. It's somewhat more civil than it was when I was in college. There were tear gas and major protests and university shutdowns, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all a matter of perspective. And I think that New Paltz is leading in how to handle things, and to the credit of the administration, faculty, and students.
Right. And I just want to qualify, I did say no major, so I'm looking at, we certainly have our minor dust ups and I know student affairs does, but to your point.
Well, there is a lot of people here. And you have exemplary people, but once in a while, people have strong opinions and strong actions, but we get that. But all in all, I mean, I'm somewhat external in Kingston, but we hear and see. And thank you.
Great team.
Yeah. We're going to hear about the facilities here. So I'm always amazed about the facilities. When I first was here and was up here 35, 40 years ago, and it was such a hodgepodge, how it could ever be brought together with some organization and design. I thought it was just crazy. That, and because of different architecture, the buildings were just splattered here, there, and everywhere. How would you ever coordinate it, have almost a grid? And I thought it was nuts. And you would look out the window, but then the evolution, it's amazing. It's a testament to people who can design and build and maintain. And it's a beautiful campus. Now when people come on it, I don't know. What do you think? It's beautiful, right?
It is very good.
Yeah.
Excuse me for a minute.
Sure.
Would you ask Janine to come in?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, there's one thing I forgot to do, so.
Grab her.
Introduce everyone to the new executive assistant. She started since we last met.
Okay.
So we'll take, it'll be in just a moment, I'm sure.
While you're waiting, can I just ask if there's been any kind of response that you've had to make with the with the wildfire air quality?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, we've been kept up to date with reviews by environment, and I know the police have monitored any disruptions, but other than that.
I know in Kingston, Julie, we had one day, I woke up the other day, it was like, wow.
Yeah, Sunday.
I looked around to see if fire was next door.
Yeah. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I think it was only people with risks had to be concerned with issues. But most people were fine. The ratings were. It wasn't like the last time.
Right, boy, it got my attention.
Yeah.
Let's step in. So I just wanted to introduce everyone to Janine Paladin, and Janine is our new executive assistant. Janine, this is our college. If there's an orange placard, those are voting members on our college council, and including Julie Noble, who's on the screen top right. So just wanted everyone to have a face to assign to the new executive assistant. So you can welcome her, but you know who we're communicating with.
This is the one who runs the show with Shelley and your buffer. This is.
I try to be. Nice to meet you.
Well, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And you're up here in the rarefied air of the ninth floor. So enjoy
The
it.
construction.
Actually,
There are beats all the time now.
he's broken again,
Oh.
and
Oh,
couldn't
okay.
come up here, so he's going to join remotely.
Remotely. Okay, thank you.
Many.
Many.
Oh, that's a short way to put this. Okay, thank you, Janine.
Thank you.
All right, back to you, Chief.
Okay. So we're going to hear about the facility now, correct?
Right,
Yeah.
sure.
This-
Got the right one?
Nope,
No?
wrong one. That's you.
Stop.
It's the next one, C construction,
Sorry
yeah,
about that.
yeah.
Are you on the, Julie, are you seeing the shared screen? No.
We
You gotta
did
go.
for a minute, Shelley, but
Oh, don't do that one, that might,
No, I know.
okay.
I'm losing my controls here. Delete that. Share the screen,
Now you closed it.
closed it.
It's still on the flash drive though. Windows Explorer.
Oh, I closed it. I didn't.
The slide.
Sorry about that, folks.
That's what we- it's on table. We stayed in.
File Explorer right to your right. See it right to your right, up at the big blue square.
It's mine.
Now,
That's what-
and it's there now. Go to the disk.
So that's nasally sound.
All right, sorry about that, folks. Now, I don't know why it's closing this.
You should be able to open the, just go to the middle and then max
There we
it. See it right in the middle there, max it.
Instructional tape. Share. All right, did I get it?
Yes.
Oh, yay.
Okay,
Thank you for your patience. And that.
and then you
Take it
can
away,
get rid of
Scott.
that. See that little window?
Good afternoon. So I wanted to talk upcoming construction between now and 2029 or so. So in 2025, we will reopen Mohonk Hall. So the work that we've done there is to add a fourth floor to it, in addition to renovating the rest of the interior. The fourth floor addition will add about 70 beds to ResLife's capacity. So that's a good news story for us. Between 2025 and 2029, we have three other projects that will start. The renovate Peregrine Hall is the first one. So that's another gut rehab. So go in and take everything out and put in all new stuff. So right now we're working through the swing space options for that. And that'll ensure plenty of dining options while that renovation project is happening. As we look at the College Hall, so this is really in two parts. First is a demolition of the existing College Shango halls. And that allows us to build a new College Hall on that same site. That project will decrease ResLife capacity by about 225 beds. But when we factor in the increases in Awasting, another fourth floor add, and the additions at Mohonk, we're down about 85 beds from pre-COVID levels. Shango Hall residents, they'll relocate to Gage Hall. We have a small renovation project that should finish in December of 25. So anytime after 26, those residents will be able to move after. The new College Hall will be 100% academic, mostly in the music department. And then as we look ahead to Elting Gym and Pool, this project replaces the existing Elting Pool, and it improves building systems and finishes throughout the Elting Gym complex. It won't touch the AWC side, the Athletic Wellness Center. It'll all be on the Elting piece. And right now we're working through the temp facilities to make sure that we can still provide to reduce those impacts from the facility closure. After 2029, we'll be looked to be guided by a new facilities master plan. So we'll look to start that next year. So that's my presentation. Are there any questions that I can answer?
So is there going to be a tent for the gym or something?
So that's a good question. That's one of the options that we're looking at is a tent or a bubble or some sort of facilities like that. It may mean we try and compress more things into the existing Athletic Wellness Center gym, that basketball court space. But there's some other things we need to find other places for.
And the pool's going to be drained and redone?
We're going to drain it, dig it out, dig a slightly bigger hole and fill it back in with water.
I'm so old, I remember when it was controversial to put the pool in. It took years on and off the budget and in and out, and now it's past its life expectancy.
It is. We're seeing equipment failures.
Tell you how old I am. Because my expiration date was 10 years ago.
The pool's expiration date was about 30 years ago.
Okay.
We've been doing a marvelous job between athletics and facilities folks, keeping that pumping. But it is becoming very problematic in recent past.
And so this is tradition at New Paltz. It's a construction site.
Absolutely.
For decades.
Yes.
And it's been, Abe, was it a construction site when you were here
I
or
was
what?
actually gonna raise my hand in a moment to talk about that a little bit. But since you kind of teed it off, I'll just share, I was a student here when there was a major capital investment that was happening in the facilities. At the same time, there was and I hope that this, isn't, that this isn't something that we need to face in the future here, but there was some budget cuts that were happening operationally that were affecting, staff. And a lot of students who this is their first introduction to the difference between an operational budget and a capital budget, and how that, that dynamic, you can have capital projects that, are in motion, that are happening, and you can have budget cuts at the same time. And I'm not saying that we're in that environment, but if we ever are in that environment, we're going to want to have spent the time now to really message around how those capital budgets get determined, the importance of those budgets, what they do for, why they're important from a labor perspective, and just the way that those budgets are very separate. So I would just encourage, everyone as much as we can to message around where that money's coming from, how it all works. If we do find ourselves in a scenario where that comparison against the operations being trimmed ever, is drawn, we're going to want to have made that messaging really clear.
Sure. And so that's a good point. So all of the projects listed up here are, with the exception of Mohonk, they're all capital funded from the construction fund. None of it is operational funded. The Mohonk project is a DASNY project, so funded by room rents. So again, none of it is operational funding.
And to your point, Gabe, yes, that's been part of the discussion. So for example, the sustainability plan that says we have to reduce by 3 million would have been our first inflection point to have that discussion, especially with faculty. Because when we say we have to reduce by $3 million between now and 2029, people are like, well, how can you invest in other things? Well, it's because those are two different pools of money, and you can't use construction fund money or residence hall monies to fund operations. But then we're also able to demonstrate how we are, even in a tight fiscal market, we're investing in our core mission. So last year, we did, I think, 40 academic searches, and we brought on over 33 new faculty members. I think it was 35. And this year we have 24 searches underway. So we are definitely not pulling back from our core mission. And we're, again, looking very closely, and that has been presented. We talk about it at the president's cabinet with the student association, so that we're letting our student leaders know so that they have a good handle on the difference between those. But it will undoubtedly, to your point, it will come up because somebody's going to just, one day they're going to say, wait a minute, how can those two things, because they will have missed every other point of contact. But we do have a paper trail to show that we're trying to make this as transparent, as clear as possible. And this becomes another one of those points. So I appreciate it.
But you do lose rooms, and Stella, right? And so it's hard to keep head count in, and that impacts on that 3 million because you have a headwind, right?
But we also have to look at other populations, not just the residential population.
Right, I get it, but still, you have to make it up.
Yes.
All of the above. And so we continue to work with the town and the village, as our prior town supervisor knows. There's a construction.
Oh, yeah, they're always very supportive of the town to, they like building. Headwind, just a
There are
headwind,
apartments
that's all.
going up over there, where we continue to look to the village and the town to see what other options are available. We continue to keep our eyes open, particularly during this renovation period, where there might be campuses in the not too far geographic area that may have unused beds at certain points, because those may become options. So we, especially public institutions. So we're monitoring all channels. But if we get to a point, and your point well taken, we will definitely have to address, if we hit a number where we're out of beds, it's a bad problem, but it's a good problem.
Because there is demand, and that's, Stella's, it's always keeping the demand
The
coming.
county is pushing increased housing, and one of the things that they're doing is accessory dwelling units. And the town and village and multiple towns have facilitated the process where now you don't even go before the planning board anymore. You can just work with the code officer and you can put an accessory dwelling unit, which is, it's a unit above your garage, right? And so that's good for maybe if you multiple generations can live together, or if you want to rent. And so it's also a good connection, because then there's a real connection between the landlord and the tenant. So they get treated better because they live next. You have to be owner occupied to do it.
I know, Neil, but then other people will say that the absentee landlords do that also. And so it's not so easy. But in theory, we need places to live. and there's such demand. It has to be met one way or the other. And it goes for students and for citizenry. And then the local residents say, I have no place to live, the students, right? You know, but just, it's not easy, but how would I say, the institution's in demand. It's a wonderful place to live. It's not like that all over New York. And, but here it's a magnet. And I think in New Paltz, you could say contributes to the problem of people coming in, but we want them to be here. And they're the right people for students, and the students want to stay as well. They like it here. But we have to meet the demand. And the way I look at it, the construction fund, they look out after 2029. You know, that's what you, Scott, that's what you're thinking about, not just what's going on now, but you have to manage that, but also you have to plan. Because it's a constant inflow of people. I have a perspective from being around so long. It just, New Paltz was favored years ago. It had to do with Alice and kind of the push on it for the other colleges, and whoever was, what New Paltz wasn't running the show, but because it had great leadership, got recognition, and then these construction projects came here. And you know, at one time it was like $350 million in construction here. And the need still isn't met. And we're looking at 2029, 2030, 2035. It's here. And it takes debate, because people who are students now say, you know, money, they're building these buildings, and we're paying, you know, we can't, you know, we need the money here for academic programs, need for student services, and they're building stuff instead, right? And it's not so easy, but you have to have some view of the future, and they bifurcate it, and the president has to do the juggling.
With the team.
Team, I could say the team. And yeah, and you have any favorites here for a while, Scott? Any favorite projects personally?
Ones that are underway, I really do like how the library turned out. The courtyard project in front of it. I too have seen the students gathering at that overlook to see the ridge. It's probably an underutilized feature, the ridge being an underutilized feature of campus. So how do we accentuate that type of project more? I like the work that we've done in the Peregrine Quad to improve the quality of life for those residents. I got to figure out now how to do that in the rest of the residence halls. So that's what we owe students, is a good place to live while they're here learning. So
I noticed a lot of trees being planted.
Yes.
Right.
In the last 2 weeks, a lot.
Why wasn't it like that when I was here?
I value every improvement that's happened in my absence.
Planting trees now, okay, 10, 20 years from now.
Well, what I always like to say is as the operations and the caliber of the campus continue to improve, as the caliber of student continues to improve, the value of my degree continues.
Yeah, and I've seen it. It's just it's hard to imagine, but it's a lot of, not just money, but it's human capital, hard work, good leadership. Even it helps with the faculty, bring them come up the thruway and get that view. And then they get on the campus and really can absorb it. And the facilities are well taken care of. I know there's cracks here or there. It's much better than there was. Notwithstanding the headwinds. And I'm on the outside, and I look at something that to contribute here. It helps in the quality of life throughout the county and throughout the whole Hudson Valley, the university. But it takes resources. Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
I do have a question.
Sure.
That does get to the intersection between the operational budget and the construction budget, and in that Are there design standards or specs that you're building to where your buildings are going to be more efficient so that you are ultimately saving operationally? Is that happening with all the new buildings generally? Either to, certainly to meet code, but beyond code to be as efficient as possible to save in the long run?
So I wouldn't say it's beyond code, but it meets energy code requirements. All three of the projects there that Peregrine College and Elting, they do have green elements inside them. And for all three cases, ground source heat pumps, so sinking wells into the ground to do heat exchange there.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and there's state controls that guidelines, right?
Could I just add on to that a little bit?
Sure.
So we do, Julie, need to meet, the construction fund has a directive 1B2, which does go above and beyond what our minimum code requirements are here in Ulster County. For example, we have to meet the New York stretch code, which, so yes, we do, there are elements that go above and beyond code. And one of the decisions to replace the existing College Shango complex was to be able to better benefit from newer construction's ability for energy efficiency. So
That's great that you are complying with stretch code. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Megan, for your presentation. I guess we're going to talk about money.
About money, they all go together. Okay, hang on while I try to
You did it.
upload
Welcome, Rennie.
the right, hello, Penny. All right. And share that. You're not seeing this
No,
presentation
go to the middle where it says maximize. In the middle of her little.
in the middle of
Well, that works too. Okay, there you are.
Okay,
That's the.
how about now? All right.
That's the wrong one.
We should still see construction.
Still seeing the previous.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Now, there you go.
No,
College Council.
this one. But, oh, that's what I'm doing. I'm
You
sorry.
gotta go to her box.
Here. I'm having technical difficulties today. This one? Yeah, you drive.
Okay.
Close the construction one out. Ah,
We can share.
thank you. Right in over in the middle. There you go. How many Shelleys does it take
How much
to open up?
Oh, my goodness. It's the same.
Yeah. Obviously, it takes more than two, so
It
close
takes
that
more
one.
than two shows.
Guess the budget just as we get presented.
I know. There we go. Now.
Maybe the budget could not get up on the broken elevator either.
It's a deferring with the budget.
Maybe you could present it by interpretive dance.
Yay, there it is. I will like that.
Phenomenal.
Come on now.
All right.
First.
Okay, we got the right one, Julie? All right, thank you. Always a little. Okay, so today I'm gonna just move our friends over a little bit. Today we'll talk about the typical year-to-date revenue expense data. But then we're gonna, I'll show you the current cash balances and trend analysis. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about the budget forum that we held in October. All right, so year to date, on the left-hand column is last year to date, and on the right-hand column, this year to date. As you can see, last year on October 31st, we were 99% of the way to our revenue target, and we're exactly there this year. Same with the state support. The state has contributed 18% so far for the first 4 months. So we're right on target with the revenue component of our budget. On the expenditure side, we're a little ahead of where we were last year to date to the target. Part of that is that we are seeing a little bit of a rebound in the budgeted FTE, the budgeted personnel on campus. We've had an inordinate number of vacancies over the past 3 years since COVID, and we are starting to see some of those positions finally fill. As we increase our enrollment, those positions are critical to making sure that our students get what they came here for, get the services that they ask for. So good news on the year-to-date portion of the budget. This next slide just represents our cash balances. The gray, yellow, and blue, light blue bars are the most recent 3 years. And you can kind of see that the trend is always that we have a little bit of an uptick in September. That's when our students start to pay for the fall semester. And then October slides down a little bit. That's because we don't have as all of the financial aid in for those students who are registered. So we're trending exactly where we should be. The other two lines, the orange, the dark orange and blue, dark blue, are the COVID and post-COVID years. So they were a bit chaotic. The only thing I anticipate this year being different from last year, from the gold bar, is that if you'll recall last year, we borrowed $5 million for a renovation project. We are not borrowing this year. We already spent that money. So this year, that line will be a little bit flatter and more representative of, say, the gray line. The challenge here, though, is that we are, since we are in an imbalanced situation where our revenues are exceeded by our expenditures, our overall cash balance, our savings account is decreasing. So we need to squish those two lines together and bring the cash balances to a stable state. That's what we're trying to do with the stability plan. Largely informed by increases in enrollment, but also some tightening of the belts needs to happen here on campus. And we need to think of other revenue streams to support that enrollment line. So October 16th, we held a budget forum where I presented a lot of this data. But we also asked at the end for some critical feedback from our folks. What are the ideas that people that don't sit around this table every Tuesday have for the fiscal health of this campus? So we got a variety of 9 responses from the audience, some in person and some later on, they might email. Some were along the lines of efficiencies, some were along the lines of increasing revenues or enrollments. So I've categorized them here. We had an idea to catalog and consolidate software. Great idea, both for business efficiency and possibly expenditure savings. One person who's is a very good advocate for sustainability, right in Julie's wheelhouse, talked about what might we have some opportunities for farming and other sustainability initiatives. A lot of people have been talking about providing more weekend, evening, or online delivery of courses to meet students where they are. Basically offer opportunities for your non-traditional students to take part in the educational realm. Then also developing continuing education credit programs. So I just actually was lucky enough to go to a conference with my husband, who's a veterinarian. He had to get his CE credits. Unfortunately, it was in the Caribbean for me. But you know, they offer the CE credits. What about us offering CE credits in, say, business? You know, is there an opportunity for us to increase our revenues in that vein? As Vice President Turk said before, we're looking to attract more local, different types of students who don't need housing. Going back to the housing conversation, I wanted to say that in 2008, we had 8,000 students enrolled at SUNY New Paltz with fewer rooms than we will have after the completion of Mohonk Hall and College Hall coming off. So how did we do it then? Well, precisely what we're talking about now. The mix of students was different then. We had more graduate. They didn't need housing. We didn't have the online programs, but that's an opportunity for us now. So those are things that we really need to dive into and figure out how we can attract students who might not need the housing. Another idea was to engage in workforce development. Typically, that might be along the lines of a community college, but we all already are seeking ways to partner with our community colleges in the area. The Office for Veterans and Military Affairs thought that maybe the idea of waiving fees for veterans would attract more veteran students to the campus. International programs would like to see a resurgence in efforts to bring in more international students. We once had a recruiter position. We don't have that anymore. Is that something we should look into? And one other person mentioned having professionals teach. So what do we do with all this information? Our next steps, move, there we go. Our next steps are going to be to take all of this feedback and align it with our pillars and our campus priorities. Then we have to assess the viability. We have to crunch some numbers. Is this, are those ideas viable? How much might they bring in or how much might they save? How much effort is it going to take to get there? Is it a right fit for us? Then we need to assign responsibility and follow-up to individuals around campus. And then finally determine a timeline if the implementation is warranted. So those are the things that we're starting to do right now, to collate that information and bring all the viable ideas to the table and start to see what can pan out for our future fiscal stability. So that's all I've got. Questions?
I didn't know this was part of your job. I thought you just balanced the budget and made sure every bill get paid and every fee came in. So you're a long range, not even long range, you're immediate and long range planner, right?
Well, that's what we do here. Everything that the campus does is planning. I'm fortunate enough to have, and sometimes unfortunate enough to have divisions like facilities and IT in my wheelhouse. But that's, we have to plan for the future. If we don't plan, we're not keeping up with our students because they're changing more rapidly than we can ever dream of. So we've always got to be thinking with the facilities master plan, thinking 5, 10, 15 years in ahead of us. And sometimes that comes from looking back to see what we were doing right back then or what we weren't doing right and what we need to change. So, if we're going to exist 100 years from now, we've got to keep up with the needs of the population that we serve.
And I just want to emphasize that is the focus across all the VP divisions. I've asked for every unit to follow this type of a planning process because, to your point, Eli, while it may have been a bit tongue in cheek, while I didn't realize you did that, for me, making that so much part of what the VPs focus on is what the VPs should be doing. That at the end of the day, students are everything for our academic survival, but we are an enterprise, a business, and we have to function as such. And that requires that we bring data in. We are intentional in our a selection of data, of integrating it, making sure that we're implementing and that we're evaluating on a regular basis where we are. So not just the budgetary elements, but in student affairs, how are we functioning to retain and support our students? Is the quality of the experience sufficient to be able to assure that we're delivering on those? Making sure on the front end that we're visioning not only the flow of students, but the mix of students, the educational needs. And then at the vice president's table in the cabinet, making sure all 7 divisions are speaking to each other so that we're keeping our alignment in a way that no one VP is out of sync with where we are. Because again, if at the end of the day, it's all about the students, we have to make sure every unit is in that space. And that's what we're reflecting here.
Oh, I
And I
get it.
really
And the
want it
physical
to be-
responsibility or physical management or physical planning is integral in force. But sometimes it isn't thought of, but it's essential.
Mhm.
And the whole, let's say, plan, future. I saw the nursing program get cut. I remember when that decision had to be made. And it was what priority, where does it fit, and had the physical, cost of it. And then Ulster County Community College had a nursing program, and I think it was like $8 million savings by eliminating it. But we have to bring it, so is healthcare, so more essential, aging population, and now it should be restarted. But the plan has to evolve, and sometimes hard choices have to be made.
Yes.
And the participation of all the different vice presidents and students, as well as faculty, administration, not always correct, but you have a better chance of being correct when you hear all voices. And I'm personally impressed by it. And Michelle, this isn't just numbers, huh?
It's not just numbers, not just about the numbers anymore.
But all these things that you mentioned have an effect, and they have cost, but then there's also revenue. Yeah. And then the students benefit. So I thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Just a quick one, Michelle, you did a great job overviewing all those recommendations that folks had, but the one that doesn't make sense to me, or maybe you could provide more context, is the professionals teach. To have professionals teach, what does that mean?
So I'm not extremely sure, not very sure about what the context of the person's suggestion was, but I think it was mostly along the line of getting, saving some money on full-time faculty but also getting professionals engaged more in the student experience. So on my side of the house, in administration, I don't get to converse with students very often. I think that this individual thought that if professionals were to teach, they might be more in tune with what we're actually here for. When you're sitting behind a desk paying a bill, you sometimes lose focus as to what the mission of the campus is. So I have to go back to actually the recording and find out who that was, and then dig a little bit deeper into what they were thinking.
Okay, so you're using the term professionals differently than I was interpreting it. So you're saying professionals as in admin folks who don't already teach, and I'm like, aren't professors already professional? Like, is this suggesting that the people that are currently professors are not professional? So
not at all, not at all. So yeah, we tend to talk. We use the terms faculty and then professional faculty. So this is the professional faculty who work in mostly the administrative or student service areas.
okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Anybody else have any questions or new business? Now, it's not going to be, we're not going to be here until next year. So first thing I would like to do would be to wish everybody wonderful American holiday, Thanksgiving, and then holidays and New Year, because I won't see you until next year. But by the same token, I would be remiss, Erica, if I didn't bring up development. And you're going to be bombarded by requests to donate to all manner of causes. But I would like you all to think seriously about donating to the New Paltz College or University Foundation, and can earmark it for those things that you find important in your life or for others. And to think certainly about donating. And apropos of Michelle, you know, it makes the world go around, you know, and can enhance things and make things better. And I'm certainly grateful for public education. And so I'd like you to think about that, because you're going to get bombarded by all manner to give, and give more. And so I just like you all to think, please, of giving to the foundation. There's a campaign on, but just in a general way. And I know it's not easy, but it's important. So I want to thank you in advance for that. The next scheduled meeting is, believe it or not, March 12th. Crazy, totally crazy. I don't think we're going to have a holiday party between now and then. So my glad tidings are now. And anybody has anything else? Say it, or do I have a motion to adjourn? To adjourn. Second? Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
See you guys next year. Thank you very much for coming.
Good some rest, sir.
Bye-bye, thanks.
Thank you.
I know everybody's.
Thanks, Rennie.
I know you're not the only one that watch, but just take